behind supply chain design. We know that supply chain management has been a major component of competitive strategy to enhance organizational productivity and profitability. In recent years, organizational performance measurement and metrics have received much attention from researchers and practitioners. The role of these measures and metrics in the success of an organization cannot be overstated because they affect strategic, tactical, and operational planning and control. For these reasons, in this lesson, we will study models, issues, and aspects of supply chain performance measurement. It follows from the previous slide that after studying this lesson, you should be able to understand dimensions of performance, overview of performance, evolution of metrics utilization and performance categories, supply chain transaction and revenue measurements, measurement of supply chain channel performance and supply chain metrics, SCOR model. There are two levels at which performance measurements have developed. The first is the strategic level. On a strategic level, supply chain performance is determined by the extent to which it is able to contribute to the organization's desired objectives. The second is the operational level. On an operational level, supply chain performance is determined by the extent to which the demands and needs of three principal sets of stakeholders, the customers, supply partners, and senior management, are achieved. Despite various difficulties, the core concept for the continuing success in SCM is efficient information transfer or information sharing. Each company must evaluate its actions in the context of the entire supply chain and treat stages in the supply chain it doesn't own as its own belongings. A failure to do this often creates a problem in performance measures. This self-explanatory figure gives us a structural view of the measurement system. We can see how performance model, metrics, and measurement methods are linked with each other. The supply chain begins with the sourcing of raw materials and extends through to the delivery of end items to the final customer. It links the set of resources and processes that makes this possible. The ultimate objective of an integrated supply chain is a supply chain which is seamless. Though it is an idealized concept, the seamless supply chain is not beyond reach in reality. The figure here shows this. The way to go about it is firstly to adopt it as the firm's strategy and consolidate it around simplicity, smooth material flow, value stream management, and lean thinking. All of these concepts focus on the guiding principles of supply chain thinking, viz., reduce friction, eliminate waste, and drive velocity through the supply chain. A logical extension of these concepts, that is, simplicity, smooth material flow, value stream management, and lean thinking, ultimately have to reduce uncertainty in the supply chain. There are four different types of supply chain uncertainty. These are process uncertainty, supply uncertainty, demand uncertainty, and control uncertainty. Each of these uncertainties is a handicap to operational performance. The issue is complicated even further as the not only has to confront the uncertainty generated by activities within the operational domain of the organization, but must also manage uncertainty across a host of supply chain participants. Full supply chain integration is achieved by extending the scope of management outside the company to embrace the suppliers and customers. Let us have a look at the characteristic features of a good performance measurement. The measure can be expressed as an objective value. It should easily convey what it is measuring and how it is derived. It should be balanced to reward productive behavior and discourage game playing. The effects of the measure should be readily apparent to all involved in the process being measured. The measure should have been defined by and/or agreed to by all key process participants, internally and externally, and integrate factors from all aspects of the process measured. It should focus on a key performance indicator that is of real value to managing the process. It should be properly balanced between utilization, productivity, and performance, and shows the trade-offs. The benefits of the measure must outweigh the costs of collection and analysis. And lastly, it should validate the participation among the various parties. Performance can be classified or categorized by examining logistics and supply chain performance on 4 dimensions: time, quality, cost, and supporting measures. The logistics quantification pyramid suggested by Novak is another approach to metric classification. He includes in the pyramid metrics for logistics operation costs, logistics service metrics, transaction cost and revenue, and channel satisfaction. In terms of logistics operations cost, a good example is inventory cost. By calculating the cost of carrying 1 unit of inventory and the impact of inventory turns on total inventory investment, a company could evaluate the savings associated with eliminating obsolete and slow-moving items. Historically, measurement of service industry has focused on financial operational metrics comparable to that of traditional industries. However, these measures are generally lagging in nature, and effective performance measurements have to also look at intangibles. Parasuraman and Johnston et al. Have independently developed a way of describing service quality measures which specifically focus on the characteristics of the service industry. These models have also been successfully implemented in a number of service organizations. The figure here illustrates a quantification pyramid. Let us have a look at it and understand it further. For service industry performance measurements, Parasuraman identified service dimensions while Johnston et al. Identified them as quality factors. These can be called service determinants and can be used to measure perceived as well as delivered quality. The table here shows performance measurements for service industries based on both these classifications. Supply chain metrics are different from traditional logistics metrics since they have to measure performance that is intercompany or at the firm's interfaces. This means that there has to be a focus on common processes and there must be agreement among the supply chain members in terms of the processes and their definitions. One of the early attempts to develop such a model specifically for the supply chain was taken up by the Swedish firm IKEA. Later on, the Supply Chain Operations Reference or SCOR model is one such model. The SCOR model was developed initially under the auspices of Pitiglio, Rabin, Todd and McGrath, PRTM and AMR Research in conjunction with about 70 voluntary companies and 3 universities as the cross-industry standard for supply chain management. The SCOR model, whose conceptual framework and linkages are shown in the figure here, is a process reference model that expands to analyze processes involving cross-functional activities. It looks at 5 distinct management processes that constitute the basic elements of a value chain, which is plan, source, make, deliver, and return. Let us check our progress by answering certain questions true or false. There are 4 different types of supply chain uncertainty, viz. Process uncertainty, supply uncertainty, demand uncertainty, and control uncertainty. True or false? True. The SCOR model was developed by IKEA. True or false? False. IKEA's model was one earlier than SCOR. Parasuraman identified quality factors. True or false? False. He identified service dimensions. And before we end, let us give a revision. Performance measurements are more complex than may be apparent. Supply chain surplus can only be maximized if and when all supply chain stages coordinate their strategy and operations together. On a strategic level, supply chain performance is determined by the extent to which it is able to contribute to the organization's desired objectives. On an operational level, supply chain performance is determined by the extent to which the demands and needs of principal sets of stakeholders are achieved. The challenge of developing supply chain metrics is due to the complexities involved in developing a system that is well connected to the rest of the organization, is balanced in terms of measuring short-term and long-term performance, and which helps motivate and guide supply chain professionals. The ultimate objective of an integrated supply chain is a supply chain which is seamless. The seamless supply chain is an idealized concept of perfect information flow and perfect material flow, facilitated by all supply chain players thinking and acting as one. Effective supply chain integration requires a strategy that is easy to implement. The metrics must be consistent with overall corporate strategy. Performance can be classified or categorized by examining logistics and supply chain performance on 4 dimensions: time, quality, cost, and supporting measures. There are also a number of service metrics that are often jointly developed by the firm with customers. Many of these metrics are interesting because customers use these to measure the performance of the service provider. The logistics quantification pyramid includes metrics for logistics operation costs, logistics service metrics, transaction cost and revenue, and channel satisfaction. Other types of measures have evolved over time. Measuring performance of the purchasing function is not necessarily tied directly to economic value added. Some of the strategic areas that encompass the measures in purchasing and supply are purchase cost savings or avoidance, managing supplier base. The SCOR model looks at 5 distinct management processes that constitute the basic elements of a value chain, which are plan, source, make, deliver, and return.